right, folks, our good friends at Rainbow Gardens gave me a list of some questions that people come in about fruit trees throughout the year. So let's try to help you out, and maybe you have the same questions or challenges. So for beginners wanting to grow fruit, which type would you recommend starting with? Well, that's a great question because it depends what you and your family want to grow. So we mentioned that peaches and apples, you can grow them, but you're going to have to put more inputs. Earth kind type of fruit trees would be less inputs, less effort, and a little bit higher rates of success. We would include blackberries, certain PD resistant grapes. We can add figs. We can add pomegranates, and of course plums and pears. Those would be earth kind types of fruit trees, and those are fun to grow, easy to grow, and less inputs of spraying, pruning, and training on them as well. We'll name a few for our customers. Well, we'll use Bexar County, San Antonio. One of the best peaches to grow would be La Feliciana. Some of the figs to grow would be your garden figs, or what we call closed-end types of figs. That would be like the Malta or sugar fig that we also call Celeste. The Texas Everbearing, some people also refer to as brown turkey, to name a few. Pomegranate, wonderful, used to be the standard many years ago, and that's the one that you see at the grocery store out of California. So all these unusual, harder to say names of pomegranates, those are the ones we want to go with for sure. Much better than the standard wonderful. Pears, we look for pears that are fire blight resistant. Fire blight resistant to bad bacteria, so Moonglow, Monterey, Garber, Ayers, any Orients, just to name a few. Those are all good varieties. So there's a lot of other ones that are out there worth trying, but those are some of the ones that we would really probably be best off trying, and then adding other ones down the line. So when we're growing fruit trees as any other edible crop or even landscape crop, we want you to be successful. So what are 5 of the common mistakes people make when they grow fruit trees? Well, I think you need to slow it down, study a little bit about that variety, that selection. Location. We want to make sure that these trees are in full sun, that the soil drains well, that you follow some of the initial planting, pruning, training techniques. An occasional spraying of a fungicide before disease gets on the developing fruit or the leaves, particularly after a rain event. You know, a lot of the nurseries, garden centers have fruit and vegetable fungicides, so right after that significant rain event, spray that fungicide out there. Always read and follow label instructions. Don't wait till you get bad bugs like stink bugs and aphids. You know, stay on a routine spraying program, but for sure, always read and follow label instructions. These pesticides are not the issue. It's not us using them correctly. So as long as you spray and use them correctly, that'll be fine. Weed management is crucial. When you plant these trees, as they do in commercial settings, it's free of any competition. Any weeds, grasses, you know, those little petunias look cute, but don't be planting them on these young developing trees. You really need to get these trees established, and you're adopting them. Their new home, their new environment. So keep it clean, 4 to 6 to 10 feet out. Mulch. Use a real good double shredded hardwood mulch. Keep those weeds, start out clean, maintain them, and don't have any weeds. The other one is getting too excited. You know, we're buying all these trees, but where are we going to plant them? You know, slow it down. You know, take your time before you purchase them. Plant quality trees, as you find here at these 2 Rainbow Garden locations, and plant them correctly. You know, take your time to plant them. Don't rush. And if you follow those top guidelines, I think you're going to have much more fun. Yes, this is work. It's sweat equity, but the harvest, when you pick those fresh off the tree of fruit, those grapes, and all those great edible crops, you're going to want to plant new ones next year, add it to your home family orchard, but make sure you got plenty of sunlight, watch those weeds, select the right varieties, train them, prune them, plant them correctly, and maintain them with the weed management as well as spraying them when they have potential insects or disease, and watering. An inch a week is a good rule of thumb of supplement irrigation if we don't have significant rainfall from start to end on that fruit, because you want good quality sugar in those fruit. And if you follow those basic guidelines, you're going to have a lot of fun and a lot of success growing those fruit out there. Okay, feeding your fruit trees. Like any other plant and like us, we need to eat, right? And we like the three. You know, we eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, most of us. So plants in general, we try to fertilize 2 up to 3 times a year. Not a day, but a year. So fertilizing is very important when it comes to fruit trees. If you grow trees like dwarf type trees and citrus in containers, a good rule of thumb is early March, early June, and early September with a slow release formulation for container type trees. So that's a good rule of thumb. For ground planting trees, we really don't want to fertilize maybe 6 months thereafter after they're planted, because a lot of them have slow release container fertilizer already incorporated into that root system. Elemental plant nutrition needs moisture, microbiology in the soil, good fungi, good bacteria, and temperature. And that's how the nutrition is broken down so the roots of the plant can take it up. So it doesn't matter if you use a good organic natural fertilizer or a traditional synthetic fertilizer similar to the one that you use for your lawn in the springtime. So the certified nursery professional can help you with the types of granulated fertilizers out there. The key on fruit trees is putting it on that drip line, scratching it in if it needs to, and immediately getting the water to it as soon as possible. So the ideal time is when the tree starts budding, the leaves are ready to be pushed out, fertilize. These are all ground planting trees. Then look at it, 6 weeks or so. Hey, it's looking green, a lot of nice leaves, maybe set a few fruit. So 6 weeks later, let's go ahead and fertilize it again. And a good rule of thumb is about 1 pound of fertilizer of choice per every inch of tree trunk, okay? And evenly put it on that drip line. So once, maybe twice. If it's not really moving and growing 6 weeks thereafter, or it's a very, very dry spring, then maybe just at one time. For sure in the fall, coming out of the summer heat around early to mid-September would be one of the most important times to be fertilizing everything. We're coming out of the drought, we're coming out of the heat, we're coming out of summer, so a lot of plants are kind of tired. We need to get them going. Fall is like a short spring season for a lot of us. So putting that extra nutrition out at that time frame or early to mid-September at the right rates, whatever you decide to put out there, granulated is the best, will also help store up carbohydrates and nutrition in the stems and the buds of the plant, so when they go to sleep during the winter time, they'll be happier when they come out the following spring. So the weatherman's telling you it's going to be cold, it's your fruit trees are maybe leafed out already, your figs, peaches, and others, or you see all these pretty blooms on your pink blooms on your peach tree or white blossoms on your pear, apple, or other. And it's like, oh man, what am I going to do? So realistically, you know, these yard trees, these bigger trees, they're too big to cover. So maybe a little bit extra mulch around them. If they're very, very young trees, you might wrap the trunks with some burlap or some tree wrap. That might help these young trees. But watering, get the water out early, water that drip line thoroughly. So we might have some leaves burnt, and we might lose some of those potential fruit on those flowers that were coming out early. But commercially, for instance, like peaches, you only need 10% of that fruit to set on that tree. So a freeze in reality is kind of helping us out to thin some of those overcropping or overloading of trees. So as a general rule of thumb for all fruit trees in general, landscape, yard trees, or even citrus or other in containers, dwarf type trees, fruit trees in containers, 1 fruit per every fruiting stem, no more than 2, ideally spaced out every 6 inches. So sometimes these cold spells is going to help you thin those out so you're not going out there. The biggest mistake that a lot of people make on young fruit trees in general is every peach, every plum, every fruit set on that tree. So we have lots and lots of fruit, but there's clusters, and you're not going to maximize the sugar load and the size of that. So normally we have to go out there and thin those when they're about marble size, golf ball size. So a freeze, in reality, if it's not a hard freeze, does help with that thinning process, and it'll help set those juicy fruit that you'll be harvesting in late spring through the summer months. From the beautiful Rainbow Gardens in San Antonio, David Rodriguez, Extension Horticulturist with the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service.